Welcome back to First in Preparedness. And tonight, no, not today, we're going to be doing a very special test on some hunting lights. Now, you see I'm standing here next to a target, and down the background here, maybe you can see some of the other targets set up. But these are just simple AR-500 steel targets that are painted flat white, freshly I might add. Unfortunately, we're not going to shoot these things up today as much as I'd like to, because I do have to use them for testing. But nonetheless, I'm going to compare two specific brand flashlights. One of those being this light that I picked up on Amazon. It was under $100 and is on sale for, I think, in the $80 or $90 range. It's called a Lumenshooter A-10 1000 lumen flashlight. Now, this was an interesting flashlight because not only did it come with the typical green game spotting light like I typically use, but it also came with a red light. It also comes with an IR illuminator bulb and a white bulb as well. So really, this thing's 4 flashlights in one. I mean, it's cheap. I don't have overly high expectations for it because I'm going to be comparing this to Streamlight's version of products. Now, this particular light is a TRL-1 game spotter, which is a green LED flashlight. And it is so bright that literally if you mount it under your AR, you can see bullets with it as you shoot, as they fly. Now, since this isn't a one-all do-all, I also am going to compare it against my ProTac 1 weapon-mounted light, which is a white light. And I'm going to compare it against the Streamlight infrared illuminator that I use for my Gen 1 and Gen 2 night vision scopes. So, as you can see, I have these AR-500 targets in the background. You can see several others down my driveway. Now, I have these spaced. This one is going to be 50 yards from my starting point or from my filming point. I then have one at 100 yards. I then have one at 200 yards. Then I have one at the end of my driveway at 249 yards. We'll call it 250 just for good measure. So with that, let's take a look at the products that we're going to cover and what options each of those have. So now that it's a little darker out, and I might have consumed some bourbon in the meantime, so please forgive me if my speech starts slurring. But nonetheless, let's go over more in depth of what you actually get in each of these lights as you purchase them. So let's go ahead and open up the old Lumenshooter A-10 and what you get. Great. So obviously you get a set of cheaply written instructions on a piece of paper. Great. Throw that up. So here is the actual flashlight itself. It did come with this rail mount piece that I've already attached on there and clamped down. But as you can see, it's definitely not the smallest light. It does have a little bit of heft to it. But with it, you also get a charger for the 2 batteries or rechargeable batteries that do come with it. So not a bad deal. You also get this hood, which I guess goes over the light. I don't know if you're going to direct it more or what, but you also get a handsome wrist strap that you can attach to it. Although I don't know why you do that with a weapon light. You also get something that looks like it's a scope mounted light to put above if you wanted to mount the light above your scope. And you get an additional tail cap that has a pressure pad. Kind of a nice deal. I didn't get that with, well, I did get that with one of the Streamlight. At least the ProTac comes with a pressure pad. And then, of course, you get 3 additional bulbs that you can interchange with this. All in all, for $90, it's actually quite a bit of stuff that you do get with this particular kit. Now let's look at the Streamlight ProTac, or not the ProTac, sorry, the Game Spotter green LED. Obviously, you get the flashlight itself. It does actually come with a rail mount. I do like the Streamlight ProTac clamp system that they do utilize for their rails. It's actually very easy. And look, it already comes with batteries in it. Everything you get look like some rail adapters for different types of firearms. I'm sure in the instructions it tells you which one goes with a Glock or whatnot. course, get the Streamlight manual and a Streamlight sticker. Yay! Now, of course, we have the Streamlight SuperTech IR. It's just an infrared illuminator, uses 2 CR123 batteries. We, of course, have the infamous Streamlight Stinger. These things are awesome. I love them. This is what I use as my nightstand flashlight. And here's my old Streamlight Stinger flashlight that I had to make this handsome paracord handle for. And then, of course, the Streamlight ProTac 1. I'd be curious to try the ProTac 2, which is the dual cell of this. Supposed to be 625 lumens versus this 325. And then, of course, the Gen 1 night vision scope that we're going to use for this test. So let's take a look at the actual size of this weapon light while it's actually mounted on a rifle. As you can see, it's not the smallest. It does stick out quite a bit, but now let's look at some of the Streamlight offerings. Now here is the game spotter. I mean, it's a little bit bigger than your typical TRL-1 with the larger lens on it, but it's still light. I mean, I would say this maybe weighs the same as the ProTac, but it is extremely effective so far at game spotting. Now here is the Streamlight. This is the IR illuminator that I use with the Gen 1 and Gen 2 night vision setups that I have. It's not significantly smaller than the Lumenshooter, but I still use it quite a bit. Now, obviously, the ProTac 1 is a bit smaller, a bit lower profile, but I mean, this is more of a tactical light than a hunting light, but there it is, pretty light, small. So for the first of the Predator green lights that we're going to test, we're going to turn on the TRL-1, which is rated at 135 lumens and 31,000 candela. Now, obviously, we can see the 50-yard target very, very easily. You can see the 100-yard target easily as well. Off to the right, you see the 200-yard target. Oh, great, I'm getting bugs here. And then very, very faintly off in the distance, you can see the 250-yard target. Now, this light, comes in at, just over $100. I mean, I don't know if I could, with my naked eye, I couldn't identify a target at 250 with this. I'd be lucky to get 200 yards out of it. Obviously, if you have a scope on a rifle, you can probably identify targets out to 250 relatively easily with this. So let's move on to the Lumenshooter A-10. So I'm going to split this off real quick and turn on the Lumenshooter A-10. Now, this is obviously extremely bright, but the beam is much more narrow. You can actually focus this beam in and out. Let me see if I can actually do it without screwing up anything. So you can flood out with it, and then obviously zoom in really close. So there's the 50-yard. Obviously, you can see it very easily. You can easily see the 100-yard target. You can see the 200-yard target, and maybe even a little bit brighter, you can see the 250. So, I mean, I would say for, $90, that's pretty amazing as well. I mean, this is supposed to be 1,000 lumen. They didn't give a candela for this particular light, but I can see, set 100 yards competently with naked eye. I could identify a target with a scope easily out to 200, 250. So now we're going to test out the white lights. First, we're going to take a look at the Streamlight ProTac, which is a rail mount light, obviously. It's my end-of-the-world rifle light because it runs on 2 different batteries, but let's see how it does with this. So obviously we can see the 50-yard, no problem. You can see the 100-yard. With my naked eye, I can very, very faintly see the 200-yard. If I really squint, I might be able to see the 250. All right, let's turn on the Lumenshooter A-10 1000. So obviously with this, I can easily see the 50, I can easily see the 100, I can see the 200, and you can even see the 250 right there in the center of those two. Obviously the beam width is not very wide. I mean, I can widen this out a little bit to like the Streamlight, and it's a little fainter, but not too bad for sub $100. This thing's pretty impressive, actually. I mean, it's a bit larger in size compared to the Streamlight products. That might be its one drawback, but as far as the brightness of it, man, it is bright, I gotta say. Now let's try the Streamlight, just the regular Stinger. Well, here's the regular Stinger, and I can barely see the 200 from here. I mean, if I really squint, I can see the 250, but I mean, I don't think I could identify anything at 200 yards with this. Maybe 100, 50, no problem. Now, just to give you a comparison, here is my old Streamlight. This is the incandescent bulb, and you can see it's not very bright compared to a lot of the LED technology. I mean, I can make out the 100. 200 I can't see pretty much even with my naked eye.
Now on to the night vision. First we're going to start off with the Streamlight
50 and 100, yeah, I can see that.
Obviously you can see 100 yards and the 50 pretty easily. There's kind of a flood beam on the outside. And here's the Lumenshooter A-10. Obviously it's a fairly bright but concentrated beam. I'll try to zoom it out here and see if that changes anything. Obviously it's very bright though. For a IR illuminator, this thing will work very, very well.
So now let's see what this last mode looks like since I don't have this on any other light. Let's turn on red. So there is the red light. That's obviously zoomed out a little bit. Obviously I can see 50, I can see 100. Let's focus this thing in. Wow, I can actually easily see the 200 yard, and I can actually pretty clearly see the 250 with my naked eye. I don't know if this doesn't zoom in quite as much as my naked eye probably can see. I mean, I can clearly see the 250 even with the red. So I don't know, supposedly this is supposed to be the best for predator hunting like coyotes. Oh, there's something there. Is that a rabbit? Well, folks, there you have it. Quite a bit of an upset, I would say. For 90 bucks, this thing performed phenomenally well. I mean, yeah, it didn't have quite the flood capability, and you did have to zoom it in. But for 90 bucks, do it all. This stupid little Lumenshooter A-10, frankly, surprised the shit out of me. I mean, bear in mind there are some pros and cons to each of these. Of course, the Streamlights are a little bit smaller. They're lighter. They throw a little bit more of a flood, if that's important to you. But for 90 bucks, you can't beat that. Obviously, the size is a little bit bigger on this. With that, thank you for tuning in here again. And I'm not even going to say it, but if you like our videos, hit the subscribe button if you want to. With that, we'll see you again in the next video.